Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Ray LaRue. Excited to have you today for our session on the three pillars of a killer recruiting strategy. We're going to talk through what we see as the three opportunities that people have, even people that you might not expect to break into consulting, that they have utilized in order to leverage their way into an interview and ultimately into an offer. We're also going to talk about the downfalls of what people make mistakes doing, because we both pre-mistake, during mistake, and post-mistake get a lot of messages, emails, and conversations where folks have mistakes that have been a challenge for them that they've wanted to undo or do differently. So our focus today is going to be on these three pillars of a killer recruiting strategy. And as we get started, I'd like to welcome you to the call. Into the chat, if you could please put where you're calling in from and one question that you have about consulting. It can be a big macro question, what's happening in the industry with a specific firm, around compensation, around opportunities. It can be a micro question. I've got X and I'm thinking about Y. Is this a good plan or not? It can be somewhere in between. If you're here from career services, we're excited to have you. A lot of what we're going to talk about today is a part of our Consulting 101 session. And so we're really excited to share just a taste of that with you. You're welcome to utilize these materials with your students afterwards. We'll provide you with the video of the recording. After we go through that, we're going to present an executive summary. So if everybody, again, can just please type in where you're calling from, one question you have consulting, we're going to kick off the core content part of this presentation. Here's our executive summary / agenda for today. First, we're going to talk through the 3A pillars of a great recruiting strategy. And as I mentioned, for each one, we'll do a little bit of a double click into those, where we'll focus on what the opportunities are and also what some of the hindrances are that people have faced. And of course, most importantly, how you can get over those if those are you. The second part is open Q&A. So Japheth is now compiling from your questions and private questions if you want to send them so that they're not directly with your name. If it's a personalized question, you can just send those to him in a private chat. He's compiling those questions. And after I'm finished with the core presentation, we're going to work through a series of these questions. That's always the best way that we found for Q&A. And then we're going to go through a demo of our new management consultant community, which is closing tomorrow. We only have a few spots left, and we just knew that this timing would probably be perfect because some of you might have questions about it. If your questions are about the community, our services, anything else related to that, Japheth is going to pop into the chat in about 5 minutes, a link where you can book a call with someone from our team, where we can help to diagnose where you are on these 3A pillars of a consulting recruiting strategy. So welcome to Management Consulted, to this call, the 3 A's of a killer recruiting strategy. And we're going to walk through the core content now. There are 3 what we call A pillars to a great recruiting strategy. You could also use a play on words there to say there are 3 pillars to a great A recruiting strategy. And so we're not interested in helping people get part of the way to a career of their dreams. We think that there are multiple things that you can and should do. And just a brief story to provide you with some context. If you haven't met me before, I'm Jenny Ray LaRue. I'm an ex-Bain consultant, the CEO of Management Consulted. And when I entered into the consulting space, out of access, ability, and acceleration, I actually only had one of the 3. And I only had a little bit of. I went to a target school, but did absolutely zero networking or recruiting while I was at the target school. Why? I didn't think I wanted to do consulting. I was focused on medicine. So I was doing all my pre-med classes. Then I took a year, I shaved my head and traveled around the world. And I discovered that I actually was fascinated by and loved business. And I felt like that was going to be something I wanted to build in. But I didn't go right from there to try for consulting. I began to build my own small business in South Africa, which ironically, or maybe not ironically, now that I look back on my life, was a consulting business. And then years after that was when I finally had the opportunity to go into Bain. However, because I'd gone to a target school, my natural network was at Bain. Right? Some of those people went to Bain. Some of them were at McKinsey. Some were at BCG, Deloitte, United, other firms. So I actually had, because of my natural network from my education, a pretty decent amount of access. And actually waiting until after I graduated a couple of years meant that my access got stronger, not weaker. But what I didn't have was ability. And I very quickly learned this when I was going through a mock interview with a friend of mine from McKinsey, who at the end of it told me that it was the worst case interview she had ever seen. I had no ability. I didn't have a great resume. Right? I traveled for a year. Like y'all, I was in a backpack. I had braids. There was nothing that was going on for me that was professional in terms of my development during that year. So I had to really work on crafting my story, building some more contemporary experience, and preparing for the full process, fit interviews, case interviews, cover letter, resume. The third piece, though, that I didn't know that I was missing was acceleration. Like I thought that this was the same as any other career, where you just pick one firm, you make an application, you do an interview, and you get the job. But if any of you have been around consulting for more than 5 minutes, you've probably already begun to recognize that is not how this industry works. And there are a lot of ups and downs. Some of them are emotional and discouraging. And so a lot of us, whether we don't know where to go, which is the access, whether we don't know how to get there, which is the ability, or we don't have the endurance to complete the process, there's a lot that can be missing or that could go wrong to create a non-A great recruiting strategy. So with that, let me dive into the 3 things and some tips for what you can do to more effectively access this industry. Let me just say that our primary focus for today is going to be on those of you that are interested in getting jobs in consulting, but it's not all that we do. At Management Consulted, we actually offer 3 lines of business. We support universities to help their students gain access to these types of jobs. Consulting Plus is really how we think about it. That includes mock interviews. We do trainings that are group trainings. We have an online digital platform. We help job seekers do the same thing. So we walk you through programs and support, but we also help companies. A lot of people, while they gain access into the company, they enter without the ability to think and structure analysis and presentations strategically. And they also lack the endurance and the encouragement from the internal structure of the organization to succeed. So if you are in one of those other categories, universities or corporates or businesses, if you're interested in setting up your own consulting firm, while today's focus is largely going to be on job seekers, I know you're going to find something of value as well. So let me just talk through how your recruiting strategy starts. It really begins with access. And if you go back to this slide, a lot of people are surprised by that. They think the first place that a consulting journey should start is actually with ability. You have to qualify for it. But consulting is a very relationally organized business. And we find that people of wide varying abilities, that means with your different educations, with different opportunities that you've had before you, with different work experience, can fit somewhere inside the ecosystem. So really, if that's the truth, maybe you haven't honed your ability, maybe your resume doesn't reflect your ability, maybe you need to continue some more practice for your ability, but actually the biggest hindrance is not ability for most people, it's access. And so that's why we begin there. That's why we think you should begin there. That's why a lot of people come to us 6 to 12 months into a case prep process. And the first question that we ask you isn't, how many cases have you done? It's who are you talking to in the industry? Which firms do you have openings for? And so we really want to help you recalibrate today to really think first about access. So the firms that are right for you is a part of access. It is unreasonable to believe that every firm will be right for everyone. That can be hindered by or challenged by geography. It can be opened up by geography. It can be hindered by your GPA. It can be hindered by your work experience. It can be hindered by the major that you chose. The right firms for you, there's so much opportunity in this space, and we cover more than 500 different consulting firms a year, and every month we're discovering more that we never knew existed. And so consulting as an industry is large, growing, and there are huge pockets of opportunity for you. You might not know where they are, but I just want to start by saying this is an industry that is not closed to you. There are sometimes different stair-stepping that you'll need to do in order to enter into the industry. Some of you cannot go to McKinsey today. Like there isn't a pathway for you to go. You don't have the right education experience or XXXXX. But there is a pathway for you to go to many places inside the industry. And there is a pathway to go for you to go wherever if you give it enough time and enough steps to get there. The second piece is the right people inside the firms. A lot of us from the outside didn't know who we should be talking to. Now, I had a couple of friends that were from my university, but I also, my dad worked in a company and he used consultants. And I didn't even think about accessing him until I was 3 months into my job search. And he said, actually, I work with consultants. Should I talk to somebody? Well, those people were partners at organizations. And I had a natural network that I never thought about. They weren't McKinsey consultants or Bain consultants, but they were human resource consultants, which was a field that I hadn't looked at before. So the right firms for you and the right people inside the firms, finding that target, knocking on the right door is kind of one of the first key things. Here are also just some factors that people don't have. And I really want to say very explicitly here that the network you have is the network you build. So a lot of people enter into this space and feel immediately discouraged because you play the comparison game and you're like, oh, well, they grew up in a high net worth family and they went to the right school and they did the right career. No, that's not how this works. There are factors of connection where you can build a network, and the network that you build becomes a larger network over time. So the earlier you start it, the more amplified it becomes. The access fails when you don't build a network along the following 5 dimensions. First is region. So micro network in the place where you are. I tried from university in Virginia to go to California to work. My natural network from my university was in New York and DC and Philadelphia. Those were proximate to the school that I went to. And so if you want to go to a new region, you will have to micro target inside that region. There is only one strategy for consulting recruiting that never, ever works, and that is targeting all regions at all times. Because if you tell somebody, I'll go anywhere, you sound and look desperate. If you tell them, I have 3 top choices, and you micro network in each of those areas, building a network within a region creates opportunity. Quick story about this. When I moved to South Africa as an expatriate, I moved there for 3 months and I tried to get a job. It's very challenging to get a job if you're applying and you're not able to legally work there unless someone sponsors you. I'm sure that many of you who are internationals can relate to that feeling. So somebody in a meeting with me told me, hey, welcome to this region. You're in the right place, but you're asking the wrong question. And they helped me reposition to a consulting style of business instead of a job orientation. That micro region understanding built a network that for me still exists today. I still meet with business colleagues as well as friends in South Africa when I go to visit. Education is a powerful network for those of you that have an undergrad, a specialty master's, an MBA, an advanced degree that's a PhD. Your education provides access and doors to you. And I just want to say it's not just your school, but it's peer schools like yours. If you went to a large state school, access through education provides opportunities. For example, like I went to the University of Virginia. A peer school to the University of Virginia is Berkeley. I wouldn't have thought that my network was UVA and Berkeley, but it is, because those at Berkeley understood a similar context, similar environment, had similar opportunities, however, in different firms in different regions. If you went to a small liberal arts school, or you're in a small liberal arts school, let's call Swarthmore. Swarthmore is one of our partners, a small liberal arts school. Students who go to another small liberal arts school, let's call it Washington and Lee, right, in Virginia. Washington and Lee, they are a part of your natural network, even though you don't think about it. And so a lot of people don't understand that peer groups inside education, I'm not even talking about people that are graduating the same year as you, I'm talking about people who ever went there. Right? That is your natural network for education. Your industry or your major is the third one, right? Let's say you're an engineer. Every engineer is all of a sudden an opportunity for you to network. Anyone who studied engineering but did something differently afterwards is an opportunity for you to network. The industry organizations that you're a part of, the majors that you complete, create a network for you. Hopefully this is raising the level of hope in the group that we have on the call today, because I think a lot of people feel like they have limitations simply because they haven't understood how expansive their natural networks are. Number 4 is the level that you apply to. A lot of people try to go to a level that doesn't make sense. And a common mistake is that you'll look to seniority because you assume that somebody with a higher level has more power. You're not necessarily wrong, but with the higher power inside the organization often comes a lower level of focus, interest, or passion for helping you. Let's say you're an undergrad, junior, and you're thinking about an internship. Talking to a manager whose actual responsibility is to recruit the next generation of managers, not going to be a really compelling thing. They don't want to talk to you. You're not the right fit inside an organization. And so finding those people who have not just interest but authority can often be surprising inside organizations. Another common mistake on the level side is that people assume that recruiters are the number one people that they should be messaging or mentioning to them inside the firm. From a networking perspective, recruiters don't add a lot of value. From a process perspective, they add significant value. Super different mindset though. Number 5 is interest. I worked at Bain with a woman who took her next job. She's now in the C-suite of this very large public company organization based on a mutual love for skiing. She met the guy in Colorado on a lift. They connected, they exchanged information. She was unhappy at Bain, wanted to leave. He wanted someone on his team. She went over. She quadrupled her Bain salary when she entered there, and that was 15 years ago. A shared interest of skiing opened a door to a business conversation. And I think a lot of you are compelling and interesting and fascinating people, but you might keep your interest world, what you like to read, where you like to travel, your social life separate from your business life. But everyone else that you interact with has these 5 levels of networking resources. And just think about the opportunity, even if you have coffee with one friend, of the doors that it could open for you. So access fails when you don't build a network. But who do you network with? Which firms are the right ones to go to? New firms are the new norm, right? So we still do a large portion of our assistance and business in helping people break into McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. If you want to go there, there is no one better in the world to help you than Management Consulted. We are thrilled to be the leader in helping people break into these nearly impossible firms. We're great at it. That's how we built our entire programming. But some of you don't want to go there. Some of you can't go there yet. Some of you need other options to help leverage your way to open a door inside those organizations. And so I put on this page, new firms that are the new norm. And we really break down opportunities in multiple different areas when we think about helping people stair step through their career. The first is one industry, multiple practice. This is often what we have traditionally thought of as corporate, but inside the corporate, there are consulting-like jobs. That used to be only internal strategy or internal consulting. Now, it's so many different things: product management, project management, marketing, organizations that squad themselves around data, analytics, and process. And when you think about those things, those are the core of the skills that you want to learn inside consulting. If you go from a non-brand name firm to Capital One, do you know how much easier it is to go to Bain or Deloitte? So easy. So for a lot of you, the stair step through a corporate opportunity is going to be one of the first steps that you'll take. The second opportunities are the ones that we've traditionally thought of as consulting. Multiple industry, multiple practice firms. These firms work across multiple different areas: oil and gas, tech, media, and telecom. They work on aviation, right? And the variety of industries is part of what they do. But they also help with supply chain and top line growth and staffing and different parts of the organizations. Multiple industry, one practice, or a lot of where we're seeing the boutique area focus. And a lot of people didn't know that these firms existed or that they provide the same rotational experience that you have inside consulting that provides opportunity for you to train. And by the way, I'm not just saying that all of these are feeders into MBB. Like, some people will build your whole career at these incredible firms. They're amazing. You should stay there. They're going to give you promotions, pay, and opportunities that are parallel to the same types that you could get at McKinsey, Bain, and BCG. But because people haven't heard of them as much, their competitiveness to get in is less. So with those opportunities come open doors for you. The final one is one industry, one practice firms. These firms are amazing for those of you that have real specialty areas. I'm starting to talk to my PhDs and my MDs right now, right? Like if you're an MD and you're like, what I really want to do is work in oil and gas, it just sounds weird. What? Like, how did that happen? And where did that come from? That transition over, you can make it, but it's going to be a lot trickier. But go to one of these firms that focuses in healthcare. You're the perfect candidate for them. You have the healthcare plus the strategy training that you've demonstrated through your case interview. And so because of this, I think it's really important to recognize that there are so many firms that are out there with which you can build an incredible career. And some of you are going to branch off and leverage across multiple firms. And some of you are going to go to one of these places and spend your whole lives there. And you're going to love it too. So new firms are the new norm. Any questions, Japheth, that you feel like came up specifically around that one issue? I'll take one question now. If you feel like there are questions around access, that would be helpful.
It's a good question. We have had a flurry of questions come in. Let's save them for later. Yeah, I think they make most sense to wait till closer to the end. Yeah.
Sounds awesome. Thanks. All right, so we'll work now through abilities. This one we talk about a lot, so this might not be as much of a surprise. I think a lot of you are actually quite aware of where you lack your ability. You might not know how to get better, but you're definitely aware of where the lack is. So there's the application, the case, and fit interviews. And so for each one of those, I'm going to break those down. But ultimately, we find a lot of people that have a pretty good application but are underprepared in case. We find an extraordinary number of people who are unprepared for the fit interview. And this is really how we think about the 3 steps of the process. The application gets you the interview. The case gets you the second round. The fit interview gets you the offer. And if all 3 of those aren't in place, you're going to stall out at one part of that process, right? No good application, you're not going to get an interview. No good case, you're not going to get second round opportunities. You might get a lot of second round opportunities if you're great at case, but if the fit isn't there, you're not going to get the final offer. And we don't really have, we're not incentivized for people to get offers. We just care. We want you to get offers. And so we don't stop until you get the offer that you're looking for. And that's why we work through these 3 levels here. Step 1 is the application. Everybody needs a resume. No firms don't have resumes. But there are 3 other pieces of an application that often are the tipping point. Right? You have a good resume, 3.6 GPA, target school, analytical major, pretty good, details about your background. Fantastic, right? The resume itself might need some help. We do resume reviews for free. If you haven't done one of those, we're happy to share with you. We do them on a call. If you want to book our service and you want to understand how we would adjust your resume, we do them by email. If you just want to like, yes or no, this is ready or it's not. The other 3 pieces, though, the tests, this is like the McKinsey test, the BCG test, anybody who runs an analytical AI or kind of strategic test that's similar to a GMAT or a game that you play, the cover letter, which historically has been written, but BCG for their Bridge to BCG programs for the first time this year, guess what they're doing? Video cover letters. New things that we're beginning to see in different spaces. You've got to be a wonderful communicator, a tremendous storyteller, and people who just pop on and say something, it's not going to work. People who read something, also not going to work. You need to be a compelling presenter in order to demonstrate that opportunity. And the third is essays. And so for those of you that are going through the APD programs, Bridge to BCG, the Clearview process, Bain's program, any one of these programs, McKinsey Insight, any one of these programs require you to explain a leadership story from your background, a challenge that you've overcome. That essay is another component. So while the resume sets up great expectations, there's often still opportunity there. What really the fall down can be, though, is on the other parts of your process as well. Step 2 is the case interview. You can fail in 8 different ways, and actually 8 times 400 different ways because each one of these has multiple different options for failing. These are the 8 parts of the case interview. We take this from our case interview workshop. MC built a methodology to help you break down case interviews and quickly prepare for the all-encompassing case interview. We want you to succeed. We don't want you to be hindered by a lack of understanding. But many of you would go through the reps of cases without understanding it's actually just the quant questions. 1 out of 8 things that's making you fall down. Our coaching process helps you identify this. Our digital process helps you do the drills to improve. And so the case interview is something, I mean, we have a full 3-hour workshop on this that we run with schools. So not to be cursory about the fact that the case interview is nearly impossible, and we get it, but the case interview is a really tremendously important part of the case process. However, solving it doesn't mean doing it more. Solving it means doing it better. And breaking it down into the component pieces helps us do that effectively. And then the most often forgotten piece, people think, once I did the hard stuff of that resume and that edit, once I jumped into the case interview, like all I have to do is get into the final round. False. The final round, 50% or more of your score is how you fit with the organization. Some partners don't even do case interviews in the final round. They're like, whatever, you did a case, you got here, you're fine. Tell me about your future. Tell me about your plans. How do you think? What's your challenge that you faced that you want to have me know about you? What do you think scares you about this role? So there are a bunch of questions, and we have all of them inside, again, our digital courses, right? But direct questions, story questions, and tricky questions. The direct questions that are available here, the focus is on the things that you need to, that you will be asked, that you will be expected to have prepared linear answers for. Story questions are open-ended questions. You need to have 15 stories prepared for those. Most people have 3. Then tricky questions are the questions like, if I can't hire 3 people, why should you be one of the only one that I hire, right? Or if I came across this issue ethically inside an organization, or what's a time that you failed? We call these the tricky questions here. Helpful? These are the 3 pieces. And again, a lot of people focus so much on the resume portion, telling your story, building the right experience. These other parts kind of get left in the dust, or they happen right at the last minute. It happens a lot that people are like, oh, I'm going to just apply. And then if I get an interview, I'll prep. The firms recently, y'all, you have 10 days, maybe, to prepare. The opportunities for those of you who are not core in their hiring pathway, it might be 3 days. And so you really need to have your fit interviews prepared, and you need to have a baseline of case so that you're not trying to do it all at the last minute. The last piece is acceleration. So when the timing is right, you'll get acceleration through the process. Life changes drive your motivation. So the life changes that drive your motivation are, for example, graduating, moving to a new city, finishing a job, whether you leave or they fire you, right? Life changes drive your motivation. We see a lot of people that come to us that are kind of like, well, now the time is right because X, Y, or Z in my life changed. The second piece is that firm deadlines drive opening and opportunities. So it is true that you can feel like you are preparing yourself for 3 months and nothing happens. But then the firm deadlines open, or an opportunity comes through your networking pipeline, and those openings and opportunities create a 2-week window where you're super glad for the 3 months of work that you put in advance. The last part is community support. So community support that drives endurance. Community support that drives endurance. This is a piece that is present at some schools, missing at others, missing largely from the larger organizations that we're all a part of. And certainly when we feel like we're doing this alone, we do everything we know how to do, but when we run out of ideas, we have nowhere to go. So community support doesn't necessarily provide you with all of everything that we just talked about. There's a lot of work that you'll have to do, but it can definitely encourage you with the structure that's needed to provide the endurance for the long haul. So with that, I'll finish the core part of my presentation, right? The three parts of the A's. I'm going to talk a little bit more through some of those things. What I'd like to do now is introduce our community manager, Caleb. Caleb is just going to share his bio background and interest in building the community. And then we're going to go to your questions. So I want to give you, while Caleb's talking, an opportunity for you to ask Japheth questions about your career. And then once we've answered a few of those questions, we're going to do a demo of the community that opens tomorrow. We would love to have you join us. We have 7 spots available. And so we expect those to sell out. It closes at midnight tomorrow. You have an opportunity to book a chat on somebody's call if you want to either do black belt or join the community directly. But I want you to have the full information to know what you need to do, whether you join the community or not. So, Caleb, with that, let me turn it over and have you say hello to everybody, and then we're going to move to your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jenny Ray. Jenny Ray, please clarify, how many minutes do I have, just so I can honor that time for
Let's see here.
segment?
Caleb, you have 3 minutes
Okay.
to say hello and just give everybody an overview, and then we'll move back to the Q&A.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Caleb Preston. I'm the community manager. I'm so excited. We're launching the new MC community tomorrow. It's going live. So sign up before this evening if you want to get in. Those limited spots are limited. I've spent the last 15 years building multiple businesses ranging from commercial fishing in remote Alaska to private equity. And I'm excited to be here now to really create an environment that comes alongside you to really supercharge your networking and your career through this new MC community. So I'd love to share my screen, and I will give you a little snapshot, a look at some of the highlights of how we do that. The first way we do that, as I'm pulling up my screen, is we really connect you with peers that are in a similar season as you. So they are looking for case practice partners. Real quick, am I sharing my screen, January? Let's see.
You're not, and we can come back to you'll have a chance to share more in a little bit. If you just want to give people an overview now, that's great.
Okay.
And then we'll give you the chance to share screen in a minute.
Perfect. Sounds good. So in this community, you're going to have a chance to connect with other peers, other aspiring consultants, and friends that have couches all over the world you can crash on, which is another perk of building your network. So folks are in a similar spot as you. So if you're looking for someone to practice your cases with, they're going to be in here. If you come in through our black belt or our super prep programs, you actually also get access to networking with pros. We have MBB coaches, folks from Bain, BCG, McKinsey, seasoned consultants, the same ones that you'll have direct mentorship and coaching with. If you're a black belt, you actually get to connect with them one-on-one, DM, group message, and have that direct relationship. And then a huge part of this community is our live events. We have typically at least 6 events a month, ranging from info sessions with firms. We're bringing in executives or recruiters that are hiring right now, or a session like a day in the life at McKinsey with one of our seasoned coaches, hot seat sessions where we look at resumes, masterclass trainings. We're looking at how to create effective networking emails or your networking plans. So it's trainings you're not gonna be able to get anywhere else. In a unique way you can't find anywhere else. So we're excited to have you in there.
Awesong. Thanks, Caleb. We'll come back to you in just a minute. Let's move to questions now. So y'all can type your questions in the chat, and Japheth is going to kind of moderate with some of the questions that already came in, and then we're going to go back to the core information now. So Japheth, I'll leave it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jenny Ray and Caleb. We've got lots of great questions, so let's get right into them. So question number 1, is it possible for me to break into consulting without any previous consulting experience?
I'll take this one.
Great.
So I think that the answer is 1000% yes. In fact, I think that the way that I talked about stair stepping before, let me go back to that slide where I was kind of talking about the firms. Certainly, when you're moving up inside the firm organization, if you're at the manager or partner level, it can be trickier to move in with no consulting experience, because a lot of the roles at the manager and partner level begin to deviate from roles that you would have inside organizations. You need to manage projects, you need to manage people, you need to manage, the organization and the deadline. It's not like you have a team that's there forever. You have a 4-month team. The processes are different. And there's also a little bit of a sniff test around, we don't know if you're going to like this. Every consulting firm who brings people in at senior levels has a little bit of a concern that somebody, if they're joining for the first time, isn't going to enjoy the work and will leave after the firm makes a pretty significant investment in them financially, in training, in support, et cetera. And so there is a bias the further senior you get to having some consulting experience. Not required. There are certainly pathways in without it. At the junior level, 0 is required. Right? All that you need to have done is demonstrate that you have an interest in consulting, which can look like a 1-week project that you've done for an organization, or honestly, just a broader interest in business. And then also the ability to do analytical work. Every single consulting firm has analytical processes that you will have to understand. You need to know how to use Excel as a baseline, but also advanced programs like Power BI or other kinds of coding software that are really helpful to the process. And so they're looking more for skills, less for expertise or experience. So that can feel a little murky because sometimes the answer is clouded by who is who in which zoo. But in general, the answer is absolutely not. And every single year we see people who break in at all levels, but certainly even more at the lower levels without any consulting experience at all.
Love that, January. Thank you so much. I saw a question earlier about making a pivot from a Big Four firm to MBB. And so first, I just want to share that we actually just about 2 weeks ago, we released a podcast on this exact topic. So I'm just going to pop that in the chat, and it's about a 15-minute episode where you can go and listen and get our kind of our process and our approach to making that. So I would just say check that out. But Jenny Ray, is there anything you would want to kind of tease out as far as that transition?
David, just to clarify, we're talking about the transition between Big Four and MBB?
Yep.
Yep. You bet. I can share just really briefly about that. The podcast is really good. You guys should listen to that as well. But overall, I think the key focus is that we want to have everybody inside Big Four understand where they would fit at MBB and when they would fit there. So Big Four really refers to Big Four consulting, not working at a Big Four firm. I have to really make that distinction because if you're working in audit at a Big Four, moving to MBB is nearly impossible. The roles are not similar, and the caliber of the type of work that you've done doesn't feel like preparation for MBB. Going from the strategy or the operations or the consulting side of Big Four, that's actually a pretty decent feeder into some of the firms. And again, same reasons that I talked about before. You're tested in consulting. When you come to them and you say, I want to do consulting, it's not your first rodeo. You can tell them, I like it. This is what I like about it. This is what I've enjoyed. Here's the new thing that I want. The most important thing, though, that you have to do when you're moving from Big Four into MBB is you have to demonstrate a love for consulting, not a hate for it, for Big Four. And that's true for honestly anywhere that you came from, right? Like if there's something that you didn't like about the previous role, and I'm not knocking the Big Four, I'm just saying this is like a normal thing that people feel like to prove their loyalty, they have to explain how terrible their old role was. Not true. Tell me how great it was, but how there's more for you. And so a lot of people make that transition mistake in the messaging when they're connecting with folks inside MBB, et cetera. The third thing is that like the best transitioners are the top performers, right? If you say, I'm on track to be promoted, I got promoted early, like those messaging points become pretty important for MBB because MBB is smaller. Every MBB firm is smaller than even in some cases the entire strategy practice, much less the larger organization of a Deloitte or a PwC. And so recognizing that you're going to move into a different culture, but that you've performed well in the culture that you've been in can be really important. So there's a little bit of messaging, there's a little bit of method that's important for breaking in, but we see it all the time. And I think there are a couple of really core steps that in that podcast you can follow on top of what I've shared today.
Awesome. That's super helpful, January. All right, well, let's do one question about experienced hires. And then there's another question tying back to the community, and then maybe we can talk a little bit more about the community. But there's a few questions from experienced professionals asking, when do you expect experienced hire recruiting to pick back up? And kind of, do you have a sense from firms as far as timeline for when that might pick up? So January, I'll give that to you.
Love it. I don't like the question. I'll tell y'all why. Because it assumes that you are the worst of the batch that have the opportunities, and that therefore the only time the opportunities come to you are when there are the maximum number of opportunities. I don't like the premise of the question. I just want to acknowledge, I get why you would feel that way, why it feels like the doors are closed to you, but they're not. Every firm is hiring, and every firm is hiring experienced hires. The only question is whether you're one of the experienced hires that they're hiring. And so when is it going to pick back up? When is the pool going to get larger? It could be in a month. It could be in 6 years, y'all. But the pools are larger relatively in some parts of every business, in some industries, in some locations today than they were 4 years ago. And so I don't like the premise of the question. I think that what you need to do is do what we talked about today. Access, like you need to develop your network, and you need to never stop until you have done absolutely everything that you've thought of. And then you ask for help and you keep going, right? But the access piece is actually the only piece that you lack. The ability is and has always been there. You might not be ready for the interview, but you have what it takes. If you're an experienced hire, you have what it takes to break into this industry. You do. Like, we have seen the wildest, craziest things. And then you also need the endurance to go after it. So the question isn't when are they going to get better at opening the door to you? The question is, are you going to beat the door down now? You can get the opportunities right now. They're yours to take. And like, with every panel that we have for firms, not one of the firms comes on these panels because they're interested in not hiring you. They all want y'all. So I just would really encourage a mindset shift when it comes to those kinds of questions.
That's some hard-hitting truth right there. Okay, well, Caleb, this is a good question for you. For folks in Europe, how will events inside the community work for kind of a European time zone?
That's a great question. So we try and schedule our events consistently in kind of a middle of the day, early afternoon Eastern time, which is usually going to be evening for GMT or London time. So we realize we have an international network of clientele. So we really try and cater that. And there will be some exceptions where maybe we'll have some sessions in the evening. For example, maybe our case gathering sessions where we will actually have a longer 90-minute session. You can pair up and actually practice 2 cases on the call. We're looking at having that on a weekend or in an evening, so it's more conducive for your availability. But you're normally going to find it in the evening if you're in Europe.
Caleb and Japheth, I just popped up on the screen the list of some of our schedules and how they align with these 3 pieces that we talk about, y'all. Like, we have thought about this for a year before we launched it. And every single month, there will be something different in each one of these 3 categories. So every month, you will have access to a firm info session. Right now, with the 7 slots that will close at the end of this week, that means like 30 of you will sit in a session with LEK. Where do you get that opportunity anywhere else, right? LEK wants to come and talk to you. They want to hire y'all. So it's an opportunity that is restricted to everybody who's inside here. A Q&A with a former MBB consultant, right? Wow, like that's an amazing opportunity. Master classes, writing a killer networking email on February 12th. That session will never be available again in 2024. We'll have a different one on your ability that will focus in March. But if y'all do this, like, we're talking about this times 12. That's what you get as a part of the community. And we know that it's not free. We didn't intend to build it as free because we want you to be as invested as we are in you, in yourself, right? But it's also not expensive. There are communities that I have been pitched to be a part of that are $25,000. And honestly, the payoff for that in consulting is there, right? You get in, you get that bump in salary, you get it, then a 20% increase on that in your second year and more. And the job opportunities that open up to you are extravagant. Like we've worked to keep this affordable for absolutely everybody. So master classes, resume hot seat, case partner gatherings, where we're actually going to do a case together. And then the career strategy session. So we hope that if you will be able to come to these, we will record everything if you can't, but we did schedule them so that we believe that you will be able to join wherever you are in the world. Okay. I suppose maybe if you're in the Galapagos, that's like a really challenging timeline, but we haven't had an extravagant demand for consulting demand coming from the Galapagos. Japheth, are there any other questions about the community or about one of the three pillars?
Yes, there are. All right, we got a question about resumes. This one's fairly broad. How do I kind of show that I'm unique on my resume, and how do I kind of stand out? So I know that's super broad, but maybe kind of three best practices for folks in the call.
So you don't like I don't I feel like I'm just really going to be salty today with y'all, but your job on the resume is not to stand out. That is not where you stand out. If you're dropping your resume blindly and trying to put purple on it or add an experience that doesn't make sense, like your resume is a qualifier. Where you stand out is in the access piece. You need somebody inside the firm that you've talked to. They need a voiceover of who you are. They need to have talked to you to feel like they want to work with you, like they could present you in front of clients. That's the X factor. It's not whether you could do the job. The resume points a little bit to that. It's whether you're going to be the kind of person inside their organization that they can put in front of a 50-year-old client and say like, wow, this person is smart, they're capable, they're able. It's the personal presentation portion that actually provides you with the access. So let me answer the question that you didn't ask me, which is how can you suck at the resume? How can it disqualify you, right? Because that's really what you should be asking yourself. A core, common, normal resume will get you access to every single door that you need. It does not have to be a standout. It doesn't. It has to be the best that you can offer, but that's it. It doesn't have to be better than other people's, right? A core great resume that falls down because it doesn't demonstrate itself, has too many things on it, 11 entries instead of 6. Most people don't want to read the 5th or 7th entry before the one that you're doing now. They don't care. They don't care that you did it 15 years ago in high school and that it's something that like is just fluffy on your resume. So we do a lot of paring down on the resume to reduce noise so that the things that are the most important really present themselves with a bit of a punch. The other thing that can really make your resume fall down is having gaps in experience that you didn't know should go on there. So we do a lot of work saying like your resume looks like an engineering resume. You're probably a great engineer, but this is not an engineering application. And so we need to see an interest in business somewhere on you. We do that both through the entries that you add and also through actual rewording of every line, because some of you explain that you solved a very technical problem that no one cares about, but you don't talk about the business impact of the problem that you solved. So we help to translate the things that you say into this kind of environment. The third thing that you don't do is add any spice, y'all. Like people want to talk to humans. And if you say your interests are reading and vanilla ice cream, they're like, eh. Right? If you say that your interest is like wakeboarding and like body surfing and, you know, artisan chocolate, they're like, this person sounds like somebody I'd love to have a coffee with, right? And so there's not really a standout. There's just losses, like losses of your story that aren't presented that mean that people can't see who you are. But if all of those are there, the resume still isn't enough. So again, like you have to be careful the premise of your questions, because you can sit there and edit your resume 60 times and go to 4 different services and apply and have exactly the same results. We don't want that for you, right? We want you to do what you came to do, which is get a job that matches the intelligence and the capacity that you have. And if that's missing, we want to help you unlock what's the missing piece.
Awesome. We've got Tozen, who has first round interviews coming out shortly. What types of questions should I expect for fit interviews if I'm applying to an office in a foreign country?
Okay, I'm going to answer that question, but I think what we should do is give Caleb the opportunity to talk a little bit about community stuff and how that community can help with those types of questions. And then I'm going to come back and layer on whatever Caleb's not able to answer. Caleb, are you able to screen share with everybody kind of what stuff would look like inside of the community?
Yes, I certainly can. Let me do that right now. Sharing my screen. Okay, Japheth, are you seeing the community here? All right,
Yep.
can you see this? Okay, here is the community. And hey Japheth, I'm gonna move real quick because my internet says it's going slow. But welcome everybody. This is a glimpse inside our community platform circle. Over here, we have our events and replays calendar, and this is where the magic happens for our live events. And so this is where you're going to have access to these 6+ live events every month. And so we're starting with the community kickoff call with Jenny Ray, and we're actually moving into an incredible calendar. We have a hot seat session where Japheth and I are going to be editing your resumes on the fly for several participants. We have a master class coming up on the 12th, where Naman is going to help you refine and nail your effective networking email, which is a key piece to networking into these firms. We have our info session with Matt Mancuso, who's a managing director at LEK. And this is going to be an incredible opportunity to come in an intimate setting and hear from Matt about the opportunities at their firm, their hiring process, and even be able to have Q&A with him. And we're going to have a functionality where you can actually have your resume submitted via resume book to LEK if this is a firm that you'd like to be put in front of. So that's a really unique opportunity. So every month you're going to have a session just like this, which is a really powerful component. Then moving on, we have co-working sessions, an opportunity just to build a relationship in a more casual environment with myself. And then we have different coaches to bring in every month. So Divya, who's had 8 years at McKinsey, is going to be sharing what it's really like to have a day in the life at that firm. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be informative, going to really give you a behind the veil look at what it looks like to actually work at an MBB. So this is an example of our events calendar. We also have a space for direct community chat where you can ask questions, connect with peers, ask questions like the one that was just proposed here that Jenny Ray is going to address. In this space, we're with other aspiring consultants who are in the interview process. They're right there with you. And then another component is we actually going to have a section for our black belts and super preps where you can come in here. This is a special space just for you where you can actually ask questions and directly interact with our expert MBB coaches. So it's an incredible opportunity. You can directly DM members that are in your same group and just build relationships and advance your career faster. All right, back to you, Jenny Ray.
Thanks, Caleb. Love what we're doing with the community. So excited to have you. Y'all, Caleb has built amazing communities before, and he's the best in the business. So we're really excited and honored to have him at Management Consulted. I'm going to go back to my screen, and then Japheth, I feel like we have time for maybe 1 or 2 final questions. Caleb, I punted the question to you, but then I want to actually go back and answer it because I don't feel like we gave a robust enough answer. When it comes to fit questions that you're answering in a foreign country, the first thing that you have to do is prepare for the ones that you would answer in your home country, right? Like, again, I want y'all to stop thinking about the magic bullet for a second and make sure that you evaluated yourself well enough on the core tenets. And so a lot of you, what you need is a lot less of the special factor and a lot more of just like the blocking and tackling. You need somebody to help you make sure that you're blocking and tackling in all the ways and there are no gaps in your armor. So when it comes to the fit interview, let me come back here to this page. We have 3 direct questions. By the way, as a part of the community, you get access to our full all access pass, which is every piece of our digital platform. That's worth $700 alone. So we were really like probably underpricing the community, honestly, but the all access pass includes a complete tutorial on all of these things. So the direct questions, there are 3 of them. We ask you to break them down and you'll see how we do a review with that. A lot of our black belts use at least one of their sessions with a coach to work through these direct questions. And the biggest thing that we need is not the right questions, but preparation. Like you have to be ready to answer any question in 1 minute. If you can't do that, then it's really tricky. The second piece is story questions, right? So we need you to have 15 stories ready to answer. There are 3 core tricky questions. If you know how to answer those when they ask you a 4th and a 5th, you'll be ready for those. And so a lot of people try to prep at the margins, not at the core. That's a problem because then you're ready for the exceptions instead of the rules. Get the rules right, and it's really easy to know when you can break them and also how to go beyond that. But the practice that you build in with fit, like our best fit doers, they spend 10 hours on fit. And they get offers, and that makes a difference, right? And so it's heartbreaking if you spent a year and money and 30 cases and you get to the final round and they say you're not a fit because you didn't practice your stories for a half an hour. Like what? Right? So we just see this problem enough that I'm really passionate about making sure that you ask those right questions. Then if you have questions, especially inside the community, like if you're like, hey, Caleb, what's France going to ask me that somebody else isn't, or like, how's the Middle East going to think about this differently? It comes down a lot to the types of businesses and culture that the organizations have, right? So in the Middle East, you're going to have a significant amount of infrastructure questions, significant amount of oil and gas questions. Like the questions that you're going to ask aren't going to surprise you. In LA, it's going to be a lot more media. In San Francisco, it's going to be a lot more tech. So thinking about the area where you go, and that's micro down to the city and office, all the way macro into a foreign country can also help you prepare. But you cannot build on a lack of a foundation. So the foundation is the most important part first. Japheth, final questions?
Final questions. Amazing. Let me try to find a good one to end on.
Someone asked me earlier privately here, Japheth, I'll just do this one. Someone asked me earlier privately, kind of what is considered entry level at the firms. I thought that was a great clarifying question because I kind of talked about some of the differences between applying at the entry level and applying as an experienced hire. Entry level is considered the associate or analyst, and then consultant or associate levels, the pre-MBA and the post-MBA roles, when you're traditionally entering right out of school. So while you can enter at those positions as an experienced hire, they're pretty structured processes. When I'm talking about the divergence, it happens at the manager and the partner level. And so just for reference, for those of you who are experienced hires, if you have 8 or fewer years of work experience, you are considered entry level at a consulting firm. If you have 9 or more years of work experience, that's when you're going to target some of those manager and partner level roles. So that's really where the differentiation comes in. Sorry, Japheth. Hopefully I gave you a little bit of time to find that last question.
That's great. Yeah. So this was a great one around networking, and I already answered it privately, but I think it'd be great to share with the group. So Chris was asking, how often do we communicate with recruiters or consultants or other connections at a firm that we have, that we're interested in applying to?
Amazing. So in the master classes that we're going to do inside the community, we are beginning with networking. They will also include case and fit. They will also include resumes. The master classes, we have 12 of them. So we're really going to cover absolutely every step of that process. But fundamentally, when you're thinking about the networking process, we have a couple of rules that have been great guidelines to help people understand when they're doing too much or when they're doing too little. One of our rules is called the 2, 2, and 2 rule. The 2, 2, and 2 rule is where we encourage you to talk to 2 people per firm, per office, with 2 emailed interactions. So you send an initial invite and a follow-up. And then that you complete those 2 interactions over 2 weeks. And if you do all of those things and nobody writes back to you, then you assume that either something is wrong with you and you come and talk to us, right? You say, I sent this email, why is nobody responding? And we'll say, oh my goodness, don't send that, send this. Or it's not the right people, right? Sometimes they're busy, something's going on, it's just not the right time to talk. So it could be the ask, and it also could be the person on the other side. And so we work to fix whatever that is, and we encourage you to go back and do that again. If you're interviewing or interested in interviewing in more than one office, that 2, 2, and 2 rule can run concurrently across different offices inside firms, and it can also run concurrently across different firms. So that's kind of one of our right guidelines. If you've already networked with somebody, we ask that you put yourself on somewhere around a 6-month check-in schedule, and the check-in is a positive update. So you let them know what has happened from your conversation, right? Here's what came out of something. Here's how everything worked for us. Thank you for this piece of advice. I did what you said. That's a really important part of it. Letting them know that you remain interested and maybe asking one question. If you don't have those things going on, a positive update or a new question, you don't write them. And so the goal is to really figure out what those right messages are. You're building a hype team inside the organizations, right? Somebody who's like, wow, like I wouldn't have thought that this person would have been a top performer, but they've written me 3 times, some pretty compelling insights and information. I think they're going to really manage themselves in projects well. Like we should take a look at them. You move the tide based on those kinds of experiences, but there actually isn't at that point the right qualifier. Last thing I just want to say about networking, we're going to cover this in pretty important depth, is that you never wait to ask for a referral. It should always happen in your first call with someone. Big mistake we see a lot of people make. So they'll have a conversation, they'll ask somebody, are you okay if I reach out if I have more questions? The person leaves the door open, but they don't close the deal. They don't say, I'm going to apply. I'd love to have a referral from you when the time is right. When that doesn't happen, it's super awkward to grab a second call or to then ask for it later. And so that can be a fault. If some of you have gone through that, we have a process to help you recover from it, but we would definitely prefer that you don't have to do that. We'd prefer that you just do it right the first time. Japheth, I think we're almost coming up on time, but I wanted to just say that we're going to keep the line open for anyone who wants to ask questions about the community. Caleb and I will stay. So if you're like, I don't know if this is right for me, I'm not sure, I might want to join later. I'm thinking about now or later. Here's, what I want to do. We would love to help you answer those questions right now. On the call, because the access does close tomorrow and February is going to be awesome. There are really 2 ways that you can join the community. We've mentioned it a number of times today, but just to be clear, you can join Black Belt and the community is included. And actually that is our most popular way for people to be in the community, because you don't just get the community, you also get expert coaching and you get a resume and a cover letter edit. So you kind of get everything that we think you need to succeed. But you can buy the community alone. You'll have a 1-year membership. You can also upgrade from the community to Black Belt at some point later. So those pathways are both open to you. If you're not sure and you want a 15-minute call or a full resume review, like we're not going to be able to obviously do that individually for you now. Today, there are times open on Eden's calendar. You can just grab a spot on her calendar today and book in with her. So you can send her your resume and you can ask her, is the community right for me? Here's what I'm thinking. And then she can give you some specific guidance and feedback. Other than that, I just want to say thank you for joining. I hope y'all found this content and the delivery not too salty, but a little bit sweet, maybe some salty and a little sweet, whatever the right combo is for you. I hope that you found it and enjoyed it. We really are advocating for your success. We're excited to have you. And with that, we will say thank you for joining us. Caleb and I, though, will remain on the call in case you've got questions from here.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody.
If you've got questions, you can pop them in the chat, or y'all can just raise your hand or unmute. We would love to hear from you directly. Who's got questions for us? Y'all should ask Caleb about his rum and coconut drink. Like, I know that you wouldn't have known to ask that, but I'm going to say it's a great question to ask. Caleb,
Yes.
talk to us about rum and coconut while everybody's thinking of their question.
So I'm an Alaskan that now finds himself living in the Caribbean with my wife and my two young kids. And so the other day we were out we're driving to dinner and we were asking about favorite drinks. And I said, hey, look, what I do is I just go pick a coconut, grab my machete, open it up, and pour some rum right into it. And that's my happy hour drink of choice in my hammock looking at the Caribbean Ocean and so the sea, not ocean. So it's if you want to come pick up on some Caribbean vibes on our calls, you might see a palm tree in the backyard as I'm talking to you about your hiring strategy. So we have an amazing team here with incredible backgrounds, some of the most unique, talented people I've ever met. So, and that comes through in how we really root for your success, but also have cultivated this environment, this ecosystem, everything from the education to the community component coming online tomorrow is really catered in a way from some incredible people to really make you succeed. And so I think you're gonna have a lot of fun in terms of the people you're gonna get to connect with, myself included. So part of this is if it's not having fun, then we're doing something wrong because you've got to enjoy the journey. And so in this community, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna really cultivate connection. We're also gonna give you powerful, practical tools and support that you need through the all access, through the live training, and the direct relationships. So it's kind of that's what we're going for is a blend of all three of those. All right, I don't see anything in the chat. Yeah, there's still some folks on.
Yeah. What questions do y'all have? If you don't have chat questions, we'll leave the line open for you to ask them now.
Let's see, I don't see any hands raised.
Paul, did you have a question? It's okay if they're not about the community, by the way, y'all. I mean, that's really that's the time urgent one. But if you have another one, you can ask it.
Japheth, do folks have the ability to unmute themselves on this call?
They do.
Okay. So feel free to hit unmute. I mean, you have an expert here with Jenny Ray on this call and myself and my own background. So
I don't know,
feel free,
Caleb,
guys.
maybe I was a little scary today. What do you think?
I think you were honest, which I think is what we need. So here's the deal. I mean, if any of this is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. But you're going to get out what you put in. And so same with the community. Like we've created an amazing opportunity, but you're going to receive based on how you engage. And so in this ecosystem with MC, I've been here I've been about a month and a half, and they have created every single possible asset and resource to help you succeed. And so what it comes down to is how committed are you to your own success and your own career development. And if you are committed, then you have everything you need to go the distance. And I realize there are going to be some practical implications of where you live, what's your career, et cetera. But if you follow what we talked about today, especially with a plan and a map, then you'll find every resource you need here in this community. Okay, I saw a question come in. Let's see. Okay, there's a question here. I have no experience in the consulting industry. I'm switching careers. What are my chances? Richard. I mean, we've had a lot of non-traditional in the sense of folks who do not already come from a consulting background. Maybe they're PhD, more academics, maybe they're a doctor or a lawyer, right? Generating different industries coming over into consulting. So, so I would say that's not a limiting factor in the sense that it might be a different pathway into your career. Would you add to that, Jenny Ray?
I agree wholeheartedly, Caleb. I think you nailed it. And the question isn't what are my chances? The question is where are my chances the best?
Yeah.
That's really one of the challenges I think that a lot of people have is that they like if the question is, can I become a partner at McKinsey tomorrow because I have no consulting experience? Your chances are not zero, but near zero, 1%, right?
Yes.
If the question is, I have this experience in this region with this background, I've done these kinds of projects, and I'm targeting these firms, or I'm not sure which firms to target, then and I'm not sure when to target them. There's a lot of those factors that we can certainly help you line up to improve your chances to succeed. So yeah, what are your chances? They're high. We'd love to help. We just don't, we can't tell you without knowing more about you what they are, which is why Caleb does an onboarding call with everybody inside the community where he looks at your resume and he asks these kinds of questions like, what have you tried? Right? Where are you thinking about going? And then he'll give you a realistic expectation of great, that sounds like something we could do in a pretty short term, or this sounds like a pretty long process. Are you buckled in for the long haul? So I think understanding the divergence of those opportunities is a big part of what we felt like in traditional Black Belt. We aren't always able to do. The job there is we get you ready for the interview, right? Case interview, fit interview. This is a whole career coaching experience on top of the preparation process. So because of that, it's pretty significant, I think. Mohammed.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the weekly meeting. I just have a question. I enrolled into the Black Belt last year, in December, 25th. So will I be eligible to get into the MC community, or I need to upgrade?
I'm so glad that you asked. I think there was another question in the chat about this. So we only are launching the community now for new Black Belts, but we do have a program to have other Black Belts come in. We just have to do it by email. It's not something that obviously was included in your pre-purchase process. And depending on what you've used inside your Black Belt program, et cetera, will depend on where we'll pop you in. But yeah, just send us an email. We'd love to help.
Okay, sure. I'll send you an email.
Send it today, though, because we want to get you one of the slots before other people grab them. Because we're after tomorrow, former Black Belts will not be able to join going forward this year. So the only time that you can join is right now.
Okay, should I send it to Eden or to whom?
You can send it to Eden. You can send it to team@managementconsulted.com. I'll pop actually the email inside here, or you can literally just reply to one of the Black Belt emails that you got from MC. Any one of those are totally fine.
Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
I'm so glad you asked. Yeah.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Happy to have that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Caleb.
That's one thing my internet was spotty, so that kind of threw me a little bit when I was sharing earlier. But one thing I did not share earlier was the onboarding experience, where part of this is a personalized approach, where everyone coming in does get a direct one-on-one welcome call with myself, where we're gonna go through and look at what's your strategy, where do you need support, and how to really give you the best shot at success in your career plan. So it's a personalized way to maximize your investment with Management Consulted, which I'm really excited to meet many of you and hear your stories and help you take the next steps. All right, is there any more? Should we give it one more minute?
Yeah, final call for questions. Oh yeah. Will this be the opportunity to join the community in 2024? Great. Caleb, you take that one.
Okay, is this the only opportunity? Great question. So right now, this is the month to come in and become a founding member, where we have the community is included with Black Belt as well as Super Prep. That will likely still be an available opportunity later this year. But right now, it's guaranteed that you get a year access in the community when you buy Black Belt or Super Prep. As for buying the community standalone at $850 a year, that may or may not be available later this spring. It depends on whether or not it's going to be just a Black Belt only or a Super Prep only product. But right now it is available. So if you want to lock it in, now's your chance. Well, we still have a few slots left, maybe 5 to 7 slots, Japheth. So this is your chance to get in and lock in your spot as a founding community member. And then you can stay in and renew, et cetera, as we grandfather you in. So I can't guarantee it's going to be available standalone beyond the next, at later opportunities. So right now's your chance.
But the other thing that I would just mention is that, like Caleb said, right, we're going to provide the community for folks that join our Black Belt and our Super Prep programs. Super Prep is Black Belt ×2 plus a strategy sprint. So for those of you that feel like you might want some work experience on top of everything, I think every single person who's ever bought Super Prep will talk to one of our team members first, and kind of ask a little bit about what their process should look like. But anyhow, Black Belt, some people will just like find it, buy it, do it. And so the community is always optional, right? Like you can come, but you don't have to. It's included though in some of those packages like Caleb mentioned. But the thing that I'll mention is that what you will not have later in the year is this. Like LEK is not coming back this year. So if you want to talk to LEK, join now. Like you will not have the writing a killer networking email. You won't have the McKinsey Day in the Life session with Divya. Like it is not the same thing every month. Every month, it's not a cohort that begins every month at the same place. Like where you join the community, whether you join now or you join in 6 months, in 6 months, you will have had 6 months of access. And the one thing that I can guarantee you is that in 6 months, there will be 250 or 700 people at the sessions with the firms. And this month there will be 30. And so we have intentionally started out the community in a much more curated way. So if we haven't communicated that clearly enough, we're working on explaining that. But like these opportunities don't exist every month. You cannot meet with Matt Mancuso every month. This month is the month to meet with them. So our recommendation is that you would join if you feel really serious about this year, that you would join this year and you don't miss out on the opportunity. If you feel like you will not begin an application process in consulting for 12 or more months, then sure, you could wait. For me, for $850, I would like to have the security that I would get the opportunities in 12 months that I wanted and that I would be ready. So I still think that there's a use case for doing it now. But if you want to wait, just recognize it's not the same community in June. This community is the only community where you get everything over the course of this year. So I think there will be different motivations for people joining at different times. Some people have never found us before, like they're going to search for a case interview online in 5 months, and that'll be the first time that they find us. If you guys are here and thinking about it, I'd jump in now if I were you. These are great questions. Good. Final call for questions. Well, I like the commitment of this crew. Honestly, I feel like we would really like to see you inside the community because you're here waiting for a nugget of wisdom that you hope will unlock the future. And we got lots of that going on inside. So great. Well, we'll call it here. Okay, Mohammed, just under the wire. Well done. Go ahead, ask your question.
Can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can someone schedule like a case practice with you only once, or the individual cannot?
Yeah. So your case practice sessions can be scheduled with our team of coaches. The super preppers get access to one session with me, which you can use for anything. You can use it for case, you can use it for networking. And so I do one session with each of the super preppers. I do my own consulting through Management Consulted that is at about 10 times the rate of what the standard coaches charge. So you guys get amazing world-class coaches. But it would cost you 20 grand to do the same session with me that we offer you for $2,000. So it's unfeasible for almost everybody to do that. So that's how we manage those two pieces together. So Mohammed, we'll take a look at your email, and if there's a pathway for you to upgrade and you have interest in that, we can always share what that is.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Mohammed, where do you live? Just out of curiosity.
I live in Chicago area.
Cool. Awesome. I'm in Southern California today. I bet my weather's nicer than yours. What do you think?
Well, actually, we're experiencing a phenomenal weather this year. We're in February, and the temperature is 40%. It's 40 Fahrenheit. So it's something unbelievable for us. So
Well,
I'm knocking on the wood as well.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, be careful what you wish for, right? Well, that's awesome. Amazing. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Mohammed.